Please tell us a little about yourself, how long you have been in Thailand and what brought you here.
I came in 1992, I think, the first time I came here. I had actually been here before, back in the 70s, when life in Thailand was very different. But I was chief executive of a company in Hong Kong, which covered the whole of Asia, and I thought it was more appropriate to have our head office in Thailand, in Bangkok. So I moved the whole central office for Asia to Bangkok back in 1992, and my life became based in Thailand, and I've been here ever since. My background is primarily business management. I was trained in business management back in the UK in business management school. Economics, accountancy and law were my majors. I've all my life, for 38 years roughly, been managing public companies in the UK, in the USA and Australia. And after I became retired in 2003, 2004, I became a farmer. I started building plantations in the north of Thailand, rubber plantations. Basically because as soon as I retired, I got bored and I wanted to do something practical and useful. And I'd never been involved in the countryside or farming or whatever, and growing trees seemed like a wonderful thing to do. And much later became involved in Phuket. I'll come to that in a minute. But I've been a sailor since I was a small boy. I grew up in the south coast of England, in sight of the Isle of Wight and Solent. I saw the great ocean liners leaving Southampton and going all over the world. And I saw yachts, which were then always white and always had wooden masts, anchored in the rivers of the south coast, in particular the Hamble. And I thought to myself as a very small boy how wonderful to sail the world and explore exotic places, and I hoped one day that I'd have a yacht of my own. I bought one in 19, my first oak and mahogany Bermudan sloop, and learnt to sail the hard way, just by practice of putting the sails upside down and so on. And ever since then, that was when I was 19, ever since then I've owned boats. I've sailed many of the world's oceans. I spent 4 years of my life actually cruising out at sea. And I would say that sailing and boating is my absolute passion. I've been involved in boardroom management of public companies all of my professional life. But what's kept me sane is sailing and boating all the time when I'm not working.
Please tell us a little about your company, the services it offers and what makes it special.
What makes us unique, of course, is the fact that we are able to issue the highest qualification, and bear in mind that it is the only qualification that's accepted by all 174 member states of the IMO, the International Maritime Organization. So you can have US Coast Guard, or you can have Australian, New Zealand qualifications, and you can have European qualifications and so on, but they are recognized by particular maritime flags or maritime authorities. The one qualification which is accepted by all 174 member states of the IMO is the MCA certificate, and that's what we issue. When I moved to Phuket, basically to be closer to our yacht and have all the environment and so on that Phuket offers, I found myself living very close to, in fact opposite, a maritime school, which fascinated me. I thought, well, what a wonderful place to have a maritime school, right in the best cruising ground in the Asia Pacific, at a time when yachting and boating is becoming a very big thing in this part of the world. And I decided to become involved, and I took initially a 50% share in the company, and then very quickly decided to take 100% share in the company. That was Galileo Yachting School, and it was basically providing training for interior crew for superyachts. When I acquired the company, my first objective was to get accreditation, the best accreditation that we could achieve worldwide. And I wanted the school to be international, not just focused on Thailand or Southeast Asia, but to be able to encourage students to come from all over the world. So that meant, first of all, focusing on professional seafarers. So I didn't want to be a Me Too sailing school or a dinghy school or whatever. I wanted to pursue the idea of super yacht crew and later commercial crew on cruise ships, merchant shipping and offshore oil and gas support vessels and so on. So I set about developing Galileo, which later became Galileo Maritime Academy, into a world-class training facility. And that meant having the #1 accreditation in the world, which is the MCA accreditation of the UK Department for Transport. And that wasn't easy. It was very difficult actually, because the MCA on behalf of the UK government, Department for Transport, was not keen to expose their standards or their quality or their reputation to a location so far away which they couldn't really control or police or be sure about the quality of the outcome. And they said no, they wouldn't consider accrediting a school that's so far away in this part of the world. So I set about convincing them that this actually was a bad decision. The growth in maritime activity, super yachts and commercial shipping, was in the Far East, was in the Asia Pacific, the fastest growth, and that they should be involved in that. And that married up with their idea of providing better service for the UK flag, the Red Ensign countries. And eventually they started to listen to me, and they allowed me to present a business case, and they found the business case to be reasonable. And they said, okay, if you can pass a desk audit in Southampton and convince us that your training standards, your instructors, your facilities, everything about your plan and intentions meets the standard of MCA as we apply it in the UK, and you'll have to be every bit as good as any school in the UK, we'll come out to Thailand and do an audit here, which took about 2 months when it actually came about. We passed the desk audit in Southampton. Their inspectors came out to Thailand and spent a period of 2 months evaluating everything, all our course materials, our instructors. We had to give pilot courses to convince them and so on. And at the end of it, we were approved, and we are the only maritime school, college, academy in the Asia Pacific that's fully approved directly by MCA and the UK government. So we issue MCA certification on behalf of the UK government here in Thailand. And that's crucial, because what all super yachts want, and their insurers and their owners and their underwriters, is people trained to a very high practical standard, and not just trained to achieve a piece of paper. It had to be real, it had to be practical, it had to be memorable and experiential. And that's what we set about doing. So we now provide 20 different courses which result in MCA certification. And we issue that certification on behalf of the UK government, MCA. And we have pursued relentlessly since 2014, when I acquired the company, the objective of being the #1 training establishment in the Asia Pacific. And I don't think I'll be happy until we've achieved status as the #1 MCA training establishment in the world.
I understand that you are a board member of TYBA. What is your role and objective in TYBA?
I have been on the board of TYBA for some years now, and I think it's an extraordinarily valuable organisation as a link with the government, with public authorities, to promote the interests of the maritime industry in this part of the world, in Phuket and in Thailand. So the initial objective was to be part of that movement and contribute to it. Because of my role as Chairman and Chief Executive of Galileo Maritime Academy, I took on the role of chairman of the subcommittee for education, safety and the environment. And of course those are all subjects very close to my heart, because education is what I'm all about here at Galileo. That's what we do. Safety is the core issue of everything that we do here in terms of training. And my passionate personal interest is in maritime environment. And I've been involved in that. In fact, that's why I'm a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, because way back in my early 20s, I was very much involved in alerting people and the authorities and so on to the effects of pollution on the oceans. So this is a great opportunity to promote those issues which matter to TYBA, which matter to the industry, because the preservation of our environment is what preserves our industry. Of course, it's a higher issue than that, but since self-interest always works, the fact that we protect our environment means we protect our industry, because people come to Phuket, they go on the sea, they charter boats, they go out to maritime experiences, they come here for training to work on superyachts and other vessels, because they love the sea and they love the environment that brings. So my role there is to promote higher standards of maritime education, safety, and to be very much aware of the environmental impact.
Once we get over the COVID-19 vaccination problem, and tourists start coming back to Thailand en masse, what would you like the Thai government do to further entice more sailors, boats and superyachts to Thailand?
Well, that's a really crucial question. I have to say that the Thai government, at the very highest level, has been extremely aware of and hard-working in promoting the Thai maritime industry as a core element of the tourism industry in Thailand. They've recognized in recent years that the value of maritime tourism is very high, and they've been promoting that through the Customs Department, the Finance Department, the Immigration Department and the TAT, and all those government bodies have worked together in various committees to put into effect the Cabinet's decision that maritime tourism, particularly the superyacht industry, is very high value tourism. And they've had to counter the argument that, okay, this is an industry that is for the rich and famous, and there are very few of them in terms of numbers. So why are we, the government, pandering to the rich and famous and so on? Well, the answer to that is very simple. The superyacht industry and maritime tourism, chartering, boat chartering and so on, is hugely valuable to the coastal communities of Thailand in particular, and all the industries that are inland that back up those industries. And if you analyze it, the number of people, both in the coastal regions and in the support industries behind them, who benefit from that high level of tourism in repair and maintenance, in manufacturing boats and equipment, in providing fuel and food and beverages and supervision and so on. The number is huge, and the value to the economy is a very large number indeed, far in excess of anything you could imagine. And it promotes high value tourism. It promotes a kind of tourism which is sustainable, and that is the crux of the matter. That's why the government's been very active in doing that. But if you ask me in particular do I want the government to do better and more of, it's two functions. One is maritime safety. The safety standards that exist in Thailand at the moment are far from being ideal. There are many accidents with speedboats, with tour boats, with unseaworthy boats or poorly trained crew. And if that were corrected, the value of that industry would increase, because overseas people would see that Thailand is a safe place to come and take your maritime holiday, to charter a boat or to go diving or swimming or whatever. And that's a core issue of the future for marine tourism in Thailand, is the question of safety standards. Because safety standards for superyachts, any vessel over 24 meters is governed by international law. And Thailand is a signatory to the IMO, and they must comply with international law for 24 meter up boats. That's the training of the crew, that's the standard of the vessel, that's everything that is written down by the IMO and SOLAS and all the other organizations under the United Nations that create safety at sea. But below 24 meters, that is up to the Thai government to police and to train and to supervise and to set the standards. And those standards are not adequate. So that's one thing I would like the government to do. The other important thing I'd like the government to do is to do more to protect the environment, the marine environment, so that when mass tourism returns to Thailand, and we have plane loads and coach loads and so on of tourists from all over the world going out to pristine beaches and pristine reefs, whether it's in Koh Phi Phi or on the islands south on the way to Malaysia, or in the islands heading north, or the Andaman Sea, or wherever, that the environment is sufficiently protected to limit the numbers, to limit the damage of anchors on reefs, to limit the fishing, to protect the fish stocks in Phang Nga Bay and around and so on. So to take a global view of conservation of the maritime environment and to make it work. They know they can make it work. There's examples of beaches that have been closed where artificial corals have been introduced and they've rapidly grown and the environment has recovered. But it had to be destroyed first, which was unnecessary. And the control of the environment and the restriction of numbers or restriction of anchoring or the numbers of people on boats, or whatever the measures need to be. I'm not a scientist that can answer all those questions. But protection of the marine environment is absolutely paramount to protect the future, protect the industry, and protect the interests of Thai people.
What do you think it is about Phuket and Thailand that make it a great cruising destination and a super place to enjoy the leisure marine life?
Phuket has it all, really. The shape of the island, the exposure to the Indian Ocean, the long hot summer with calm waters on the western side of the island, the many coves and anchorages and so on the eastern side of the island. It's a sailor's paradise. You've always got wind one side of the island pretty much. You've always got shelter one side of the island, and the beaches on the western side are absolutely world class. There's nothing else you can find anywhere in the world that is better than the beaches you find in Phuket. And also the infrastructure in Phuket is very good. The quality of the roads, the support services, shopping in Phuket is absolutely world class. You can go into Phuket or Central or any of the big shopping centres and get a choice as good as you can get anywhere else in the world, in Singapore, Hong Kong, wherever. And for a small island, that's pretty unusual, right? So the marine life underwater, on the water, the access, the airport is fantastic. It's an international airport. You can get direct to Phuket from more or less anywhere in the world. So it pretty much has it all. I can't imagine, of course not everybody will choose to come to Phuket, but on an equal playing field, it's a very easy choice. And it's very important for our business. And students come from 36 countries from all over the world to train here. And they could do the same training in the UK. And 26% of all of our students come from the UK. So you might ask yourself, well, if you could do the same training in Aberdeen or Liverpool or Glasgow or whatever, or Newcastle, why would you go to Thailand? Well, It's the environment they come for, the tourism, the chance of having world-class training here and having a world-class holidays. As I say, 26% of all of our students come here from the UK. Many come from America, from Australia, from New Zealand, from South Africa, because this is a fantastic place to come. It's where everybody wants to do their diving or their yachting or their lying on the beach and sunbathing.
What is the best way for people to contact you?
We have a comprehensive website that explains everything we do and allows you to contact us as a team, has details of all the team members and so on. And that website is www.galileomaritimeacademy.com. If you want to contact me personally, Anthony at GalileoMaritimeAcademy.com. And if you want to call us, you'll find the number on this video.